You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, all you wonderful people out there. This is the Horror Ramblings Podcast. I don't know why I wanted to do that like that today. Normally I try to do something weird or, I don't know. You know, it's one of those things. How you doing today, Steven? Let's just jump right in here. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. It's been an eventful morning, to say the least. And, we got to talk about this feud suddenly that popped up between me and your wife, where she just railroaded me about not coming to visit, Well, no, it actually started because, so up front, we'll tell everybody we're taking a break for the rest of July. And I thought, like in my head, for some reason, our recording date was going to be June 30th, not realizing that it would be the 1st of July. And I said, we're not recording in July. And I had to get hell for that because my brain did not associate the right dates. So, but it's fine. We got it sorted. But yeah, we're going to be, the rest of July, we will be off. So this will be that, and we may have some other stuff sprinkled in if we find the time or whatever, but just know it's our summer break. So, but yeah.
In all fairness, before you get into any more of that, I have to say, she was giving me some hell about it, jokingly. She was like, now Steven told me, you told me that Steven told you July was no recording. And I was like, he might have just, thought we weren't there yet. I was like, it's just the first.
Yeah.
And, she went along as she does. And I told her, I was like, I'll tell you what, if you have a problem, just take it up with him. And she called my bluff. She took it up with you.
Oh, yeah. She's like, I've got a bone to pick with you. And I'm like, oh, shit.
She's good at that, too,
yeah.
though. Like, at first you're like, what is going on here?
And I usually know, because I think this is the second time she's come at me with something. So I usually know that it's something playful, but she always does it aggressively. So I'm like, all right, I'll play along with this. All right, let's see what you got. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
In all honesty, that's why I married the woman. But yeah, she did give you some hell about coming to see us, and I know we haven't come and seen you guys in a while, so it's a two-way street. It's been a little hectic. We haven't been able to see each other.
Yeah,
and it was funny because I think she said something about. I think she said something about you. You had said something about, well, if you guys had an extra bed, maybe we could come stay down a little bit longer or something. And we were sitting there, we were talking, we're like, well, we've only got like one other bed, but they wouldn't technically be in our part of the house. They would be in your parents' part of the house. I'm like, I'm sure we could make that work. But we had a whole like funny discussion about it and everything. It was pretty good.
I mean, I had, whatever saves cost, because, it comes down to Airbnbs, and then you got the gas, and we understand that, again, two-way street. We both have the same thing, plus trying to find the time. That's another issue. I kind of actually have the time this week, but everything kind of got flip-flopped. So yeah. Now it's just like, well, I'll take the time, because I needed a break anyway, not just for the month of July, but from work in general, So by the time you listen to this, my break will almost be over, but I'm going to hopefully enjoy a nice week off. So yeah. Hopefully it will be uneventful.
Everybody deserves to have a little time off. I was looking the other day where you guys live and where we live, and I was like, I wonder what the halfway point is. Mm-hmm. And it's a bigger city in Kentucky.
Really?
I guess that would be the halfway point. And I'm like, maybe that's something to do one time. Maybe everybody go in like half, and we just get an Airbnb somewhere like that. Yeah. And we can all hang out for like a weekend or like a week or something. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, only bad thing is my wife knows a lot of people in Kentucky, and there's a lot of people in Kentucky that she doesn't want to talk to, and she might run into some of them, and I'm like, Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, in that same town that we would have to meet in, I mean, would she have known anyone in that particular town?
I think there was just like a handful of people, but
Okay.
it seems like how do I put this in a nice way? Any of her exes that would be a problem would probably end up there. Not saying that literal, but you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have talked about that before, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe that is something to look into, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
I know whenever we get the chance to possibly film some of the stuff that we're maybe planning to film at some point, it's probably going to just be easier for us to come to where you guys are, because you have more resources than I do. So,
And to even kind of talk about that for a second, there's a Nashville filmmakers group, which, if any of them listen to the show, hello. They started like a group chat with everybody, and I guess there were a bunch of people talking about, you know, hey, we could, you know, if I do this, I do that. Everyone kind of started introducing themselves. This is what I can do. This is what I can do. And I guess the idea of it is, if you have a need of an actor, or you need a cameraman, you know, writer, whatever, you can kind of tap in there and be like, hey, is anybody available for this time, or whatever, and then you can kind of be part of that little group. So I thought that was kind of neat. So we
that is actually pretty cool.
have a little access to resources if we need it. And there was even a guy, if I had the finances to help contribute, I would definitely be up for that. But I guess some guy found an old warehouse that's for lease, and he thought, you know, a bunch of people chip in, and again, depending on how many people chip in, it would be well worth it, and you could turn it into sets and different things like that. But everyone would have to pitch in, because it was still a decent amount of money, and I don't have like a couple of thousand or tens of thousands to throw around for a lease.
Right?
So,
I get that.
but if I did, you know, I would do it, but I don't. So
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna we film something. I feel like it's gonna be sort of like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're not gonna take out loans and stuff, but
Sure.
it's gonna be real nitty gritty. And I mean, I'm cool with that, because I don't think you necessarily need a big budget, as certain films have proven in the past. Sometimes they do a lot better with a smaller budget.
Oh,
So.
yeah. I've even got a little something to say about that without saying too much, because I don't want to play my hand yet. So I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I saw the new Indiana Jones flick yesterday.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm trying to be very cautious about what I say, it's not for spoiler reasons, but there's another podcast that I contribute to called Podcasters Assemble, and they do different seasons where they'll talk about different series. Right now they're doing Indiana Jones, and I don't want to express all of my feelings for the movie here. I want to save it for that. So if you want to go listen to that, highly recommend it, especially if you're a podcaster and you've got a lot to say about whatever they're talking about. There's a few seasons that I've missed because either A, I wasn't a part of it yet, or B, I didn't care enough about the movies they were talking about to speak on them. Indiana Jones rolls around and I was like, all right, yeah, I got plenty to say about that. And so with this movie specifically, I will say I did enjoy it. Probably better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, take that however you want. I know someone was like, that's a very low bar. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, I mean, there's enjoyable things in that as well. And with what you were saying, the budget thing, there were scenes in the movie that I saw where you saw like digital face recreations or something like that. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, because it was evident, it was clear that that's what was going on. And I was sitting there thinking, it's like, why not just use some kind of like old camera work that they used to do before you could do facial swaps or whatever like that. Just don't show the face. You know, just do a different angle. Just shoot it from a different side to where you don't have to do that, and you can allow your stunt person to be in the shot, and you blur their face or whatever. I mean, there are even times when the stunt person is so blatantly there, but you still watch it anyway, and you're just like, yeah, well, whatever. But it was little things like that. I was like, why not just, because you're talking about a few frames that you spent money to swap the face versus just don't show it. You know, shoot it from a different angle. Why not just do that? It didn't make any sense to me, and it's things like that make me wonder why you want to spend the extra money just to get that shot and then do all that facial swapping.
Well, also, just gonna say this again. Halloween Kills, another perfect example, a cheaper way to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Some practical effects.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there that look enough like Harrison Ford to where they probably could have made it pretty dang convincing. The right lighting, everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Practical effects just seem to be the way to go, and Disney seems to be struggling with the de-aging and everything because what was it? It was The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
The first time they showed Luke Skywalker, he looked like you could blatantly tell
Yeah.
that it was CGI. And then they hired some guy got online and he was like, here's how I would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hired him because he did a better job.
Right.
I mean, it's like Disney just doesn't have it quite together. Like they were hiring somebody that was doing it as an amateur compared to them. It's like, maybe that's a sign right there. Maybe they should just have that guy do these movies. I don't know. I do have a question about the new Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
Was it a good farewell?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I would almost feel like, and I don't want to say this as spoilery or anything like that, but while they did give a proper send-off in some ways, it's almost like they kept the door cracked just a little bit to say, well, if we wanted to come back for just one more, the option is there. But at the same time, you could say, yeah, he's been through the ringer. I think he's done. He's done all of his adventures. Because there were even moments where he kind of comments on his age, just like, it's at this time I can't do this anymore. I'm too old. So I think that was kind of the emphasis they were trying to push is that he's up there. He's not as agile as he used to be, not as strong as he used to be. So you kind of they play on that. So he's not the Indy from the the early days. So you see that his age is catching up to him. So by the end of it, you can say he knows that this is it. But at the same time, anything could happen.
Right. So I mean, you got to give it to Harrison Ford. He's 80.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give it. Now, in the film, do they make him 80 or do they make him like maybe in his like? Because from what I saw, he was like still a professor in the trailer and everything. I haven't seen it yet, but this is just my thoughts on it from what I've seen. I kind of thought he was maybe like reaching retirement age, like in his 60s, is how they portrayed him in the movie.
Yeah, they definitely pushed the retirement bit. There was again, not a big spoiler or anything. There was a moment where he is greeted by his professional colleagues saying happy retirement and whatever. So, I mean, that was kind of one of the cruxes early on, is just to be like, yeah, you've served your time. But at the same time, even as he retired, as it were, he was still coming back to the university. So maybe he hadn't quite retired yet, or he was on his way to retiring, and maybe that was like, maybe he had a few more days and they were just throwing the party. I don't know. They didn't go into great detail about it, but they were pushing that narrative, is that he was getting ready to retire.
And I have one more thing to ask, and I guess this will be a spoiler. So
Okay.
if you answer this, do they make a reference to his dad? I know Sean Connery's gone,
Yes.
but do they make a reference to him?
Mm-hmm. They do.
Good.
I wouldn't say it's like a direct, hey, remember my dad? But there were at least 2 or 3 little moments in there that referred back to Last Crusade, where you could be like, oh, okay. Like you remember that and you'd be like, okay, I got that. So it weren't blatant, obvious, except for maybe one, but there was one that was really, really good that I appreciated, because when you hear the dialogue, you're like, oh, wow, that's all right. So you'll know what I mean when you hear it, because it's so spot on that you're just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it would have been cool if Sean Connery was still alive, if maybe he would have had like even a small cameo in it. I mean, I know the cameo thing, like, I know it can be really played out in Hollywood, but there's certain movies where you're just like, I would love to have a cameo from this person.
Sure.
But thankfully they didn't do some like horrible CGI.
No.
Sean Connery.
Again,
been...
a lot of that went to... Look, and I don't even want to say it was bad. It's just, like you said, the facial stuff where they try to de-age people, sometimes it looks fantastic. Other times you're just like, come on. And I even thought about that. What you said about Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, the prosthetics and everything. I was like, well, it's proven that you could do that. So why not try to utilize some of that? I know maybe it won't be ideal for someone like Harrison Ford, like trying to put makeup on him and make him younger like that, but maybe a combination of the prosthetics and then smooth it out with the CGI or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the process would be, but
yeah. And even if they found another actor that looked kind of like him, you don't have to pay that guy as much, and it would probably be a lot cheaper than doing all of the effects.
Yeah, it was so like you wanted to be in the moment of it, because you've seen it in the trailers where you saw him younger, and there was like a whole sequence where you got to see that.
And that was my thing, like, from the trailer, like, I saw, obviously I see it, and it's like, it is convincing, but not convincing enough. You can tell that the humanity is not quite there as much. And you can tell that it's fake to a degree.
Sure. And even to some point where, I mean, it's not as bad as, say, like Moff Tarkin and Peter Cushing from Rogue One, where he looked good when he wasn't speaking and then when he spoke, but it's still that same kind of problem where at times, like, they're improving on it, and when he's talking, sometimes it doesn't look bad, and then there are other times he's talking and you can kind of see it, and maybe even if he's looking a certain way, you can see it, and it's just like, it's frustrating because you're in the moment and then just one wrong angle and it takes you out of it. You know what I mean? So it's disappointing.
I'll give Disney credit in one regard. They've come a long way since Clue in Tron Legacy.
Yeah. Just saying.
So, which, honestly, I kind of enjoy that movie. I'm not going to lie. I kind of enjoy it probably more than I should. But
hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Love what you love, man.
But do you have any other news?
I do have 3 bits that I did want to bring up.
Yeah.
First thing is I wanted to talk about Julian Sands, because I'm almost positive we talked about it when he came missing, and
yes,
now it's been confirmed. His body was found by a hiker, and just a hell of a way for that to be his end of his legacy, because now, I know that a lot of people, at least in the horror genre, probably know him from Warlock and Warlock 2. Those were kind of his big movies in the horror genre. And, of course, he's done a few other things. I think he was in Arachnophobia.
He was the specialist in that.
Yeah. So, I mean, from everything that I've heard people talk about him. He was just like one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. He, everything professionally, he had the ability to be maybe like a leading man, but just kind of went his own path and just chose the roles that were more interesting to him, and just a great guy all around. And it's just a shame that this is how he went out, and I hate that. I'd still want to know what happened. I mean, just to go hiking and then something like, did he have a heart attack? Did he have something? I don't know. I mean, nothing's been detailed at this moment. Now, granted, by the time this episode comes out, it could have been an autopsy and they could find out. But I don't know. It's a damn shame that that's how he had to go out.
Yeah, I just hope it wasn't something like he fell and like broke his leg or, as bad as it sounds, I think I would feel more relieved if he had maybe had a heart attack and it wasn't something that he suffered.
Yeah.
And if he did suffer, he didn't suffer for a long time,
and
if that makes sense.
And I am kind of curious now that you mention it, because in this day and age where we all have phones, I feel like it had to have been something that was so sudden, something that he couldn't call for help or send an alert or something like that to somebody to come find him, help him or whatever. So I'm kind of worried that whatever happened was something so sudden that there was just no way to call for help, and that just makes it even worse.
I mean, and having cell phones, not having cell phone service doesn't seem like a thing hardly anymore. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think it might have been something like that.
Yeah,
but.
True. And there's the hiking trail that he was on where they found him. I don't know if that was a dead zone or anything like that. No pun intended or anything. Just saying that. I don't know. It sucks. And again, I hate that that's how we have to say our farewells to that man, because he was a talent, and a lot of the movies I ever saw him in, he was really good. He was always one of those. Yeah, he absolutely committed, and I was always a fan. even from a distance, you know. I didn't like seek out his work, but anytime I saw him, I was like, Julian Sands, awesome. Like, I knew who he was.
I honestly, like, as weird as it sounds, he's not a huge part of Arachnophobia, but he's one of the characters in that film that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Because of his performance, because he's so committed to it.
Sure.
So I mean, just a little nod to him there. One of my favorite movies.
Yeah. So yeah, absolute awesome dude, and hate to hear it like that, but R.I.P. dude. Moving on to something else. We got a full trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's this week.
Yes.
I'm kind of intrigued, you know. I mean, I was never a big fan of the games. I'll admit I have played one, maybe two, and I got the gimmick. You know, for what it is, it's interesting. It's enough to give you a jump scare, but I just wasn't invested enough to be like, oh yeah, this is something I want to continue to play. And I know that there are so many different, I think they're up to 5 or 6 games or spin-offs or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't keep up, but wasn't something that I was just wholeheartedly into, but I was kind of interested in the lore a little bit. So if this is going to give me a consumable version of that, I'm in. And the atmosphere seems cool. The cast seems like, I know the main guy, but I couldn't place him. But I know I've seen him in something, and I guess I should have looked it up, but I couldn't lock in on him, but I know his face.
I think he was in Hunger Games.
That's it.
I remember right.
That's it. Okay, yeah. So he's in it, and then Matthew Lillard was the only other face that I actually recognized. There might have been another one or two that I couldn't remember, but
yeah, I know the cop. I feel like I've seen her in something. The cop that comes in to warn him about everything. Yeah. I feel like I've seen her in something else. I could be just thinking that she looks like another actress or something, but
could be.
I feel like Matthew Lillard's the big gun that they've brought in from horror as far as that goes. The guy, the main guy in it, I know him from Hunger Games. He was also in like Bridge to Terabithia. Mm-hmm. I think he's been in a couple comedy movies. Normally he plays, like, I'm glad to see this transformation, because normally the characters that he plays, I don't want to say they're like annoying, but it kind of seems like he gets cast as like the kind of jerky kid. Yeah. In a lot of things that he's in. Maybe not so much Hunger Games, but in a lot of things. But I don't know. I think I'm going to like him in this role. Yeah,
he seems like very sympathetic. He's not going to be the dick that he has been, because he was the major dick in Hunger Games. Now that you mentioned, I do remember that. So, like I said, I'm intrigued. At least we actually got to see something full to kind of understand what the plot is for those of us who are uninitiated. I didn't know that they were just after children, so I thought that was kind of an interesting twist that they're after his daughter, and that gives her a reason to be there, you know, as opposed to just being some kid they're just throwing in for the sake of having a kid in the movie. But I'm intrigued. I'm eager to check it out, and the fact that it's going to drop on Peacock day of, then I don't have to go out to the theater and see it. So and you know what? It's another thing too. I'm gonna bring up, man. Theater experiences. I know we've talked about it before, and I'm just going to reinforce it. I'm about to write this big piece on why you shouldn't go to theaters anymore, because everyone wants to say how great the theater experience is, but yet the theater has to do its due diligence to make it acceptable and make you want to be there. And the theater in my town, like, we went there last night, and I absolutely wanted to refuse to go back there. But it was just, for the sake of time, convenience, it was just like, fuck it, we'll go, why not? And they just reinforced how much I don't want to go there anymore, because they have this plate glass that sits up about 1/8 of the screen. So you're already having to look over that. And what makes it worse now, since they don't seem to give a shit, is there were fingerprints all over the glass from children. So they never clean it. So trying to read subtitles, I'm sitting there having to look over the glass just to read it. And it's like, you're making this so much worse. And then we found a wadded up piece of paper towel in our seat. And after I touched it, I was like, fuck. I had to just bury my hand until we could get out of there, because I was like, I don't know what I touched. You know what I mean? So if you're not going to help me want to come support your theater, you know, if theaters die, so be it. I hate to be like that, but you know what? You're making it very difficult for me to want to come there and watch a movie. That's all I'm saying.
I completely get what you mean, because the last movie that we went to the theater to see was the Mario movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered watching all the trailers for it, and it looked beautiful. I was like, this is bright, it's colorful, the graphics look amazing on this film. Get to our theater, it looked like somebody recorded it on like one of the very first smartphones that was ever made. It's like, you guys have all this money that you get from people coming to this theater, and you can't even upgrade your system.
Yeah.
The sound system was completely just busted. Like, honestly, for us to go to a movie theater that's halfway decent, we have to drive maybe an hour out of our way.
Same.
And when we get there, it's like, cool, we get to see the movie, and it gets, it'll look good and everything. 2 tickets, it's like $60.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so I either pay something that's, a decent price here in my hometown and get this crappy version, or I have to pay increasingly more every time we go for a good vision. I get paying for what you get. Like, I get that. You pay for what something's worth. But I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, right at this day and age where everything is coming to streaming almost a week, 2 weeks, a month, why not just sit on it? You're going to be paying the same amount anyways going to the damn theater. And at least I know I don't have to worry about people being rude, being on their phones, talking, and I can at least see my damn TV. I know that for a fact,
I mean, honestly, if you've got a wall in your house that's, not got a lot of stuff in front of it, just go buy a projector.
Yeah. I mean, it'll work just the same.
Anymore, you can go spend a little bit of cash on a projector, have a movie theater right there in your house.
Exactly.
I mean, you know what I wish they would bring back? Like, I know there's still a lot of them around, but I wish they would get more popular again. That's the drive-in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, you don't expect it to look the best.
Right.
Obviously, because you're outside and everything. But, I mean, the last time I went to the drive-in, it was better than the theater. I got to sit in my car. We got to have people, we got to walk over to the thing and get our food, bring it over. We had a good time just sitting there watching the movie from our car.
And think of the value you get out of it, too. I don't know how it is near where you're at, but we get a 2-for-1. 2 movies. Pay the tickets.
Yeah, that's how they do it here.
2 movies. I mean, how can you can't beat that.
And some weekends, they don't even charge you by the person. They charge you by the carload.
Oh, wow. I don't think they do that around here.
It's like $30 for everybody you can get in your car or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we just, we pack everybody in the car, go watch a movie.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, again, getting 2 movies for the price of 1, you know exactly what you're getting. You're in your own space, and it's so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. I wish our theater here would revamp itself. There's a building behind them that's attached to them. I wish they would purchase or rent out or whatever, tear down the wall between the two and put an arcade back there and have like a cinema and an arcade. And maybe if they earn some more money from the arcade, they could get a better system.
Yeah, something.
I mean, I agree with you there, though. We have like a 65, 70-inch TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's some movies I would love to see on the big screen, but I'm like, my screen's big enough, and I can watch it at home.
Yeah, like I said, I understand the appeal of the theater-going experience. It can be fantastic. I've had a few great experiences with big movies, and the crowd is in it and everything like that, but Jesus Christ, man, you've got to give us better theaters. You got to make the experience worth going to. And it's not about the audience. You have to present your theater. You have to give us great sound, great picture, great seats without trash and gunk everywhere.
Yep.
Present it as this beautiful experience, and we'll all be in for it. So,
I'll tell you something. I never thought that I would get the chance to see Nightmare on Elm Street on the big screen. Never thought that would happen. My buddy Jeremy always checks. There's an AMC theater that he always goes to. It's God, their seats are huge. They recline a little bit of the way, and they've got like the biggest cup holders you can imagine. They run great deals on their popcorn and everything. Great theater. They were playing Nightmare on Elm Street. They were doing like every month or something. They do like throwback movies.
Yeah.
So we went to the theater and we watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street on the big screen. And to me, that was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. Would I have been cool with seeing Nightmare on Elm Street on the big screen somewhere else? Sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
But this theater had its shit together. The sound was perfect. Everything was perfect. In the opening scene when Freddy's, calling out to Tina, and she's not sure where the voice is coming from, they had their sound system on point. I heard Freddy saying Tina from behind me. It's little things like that really make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
So, but I won't go into this rabbit hole because we could do a whole episode on this. I know you said, did you have another news thing you said?
Yeah, just one last thing I wanted to bring up. I saw this yesterday, and I'm waiting for full confirmation, details, all that stuff. But I got excited. Apparently, Arrow Video, who, if you've never been on their site, they've got a lot of great older Blu-ray and 4K editions, DVDs, whatever. I actually got, what did I get here recently? I got Tremors 4K, RoboCop 4K, The Last Starfighter 4K. That's a movie that I don't think a lot of people know about and need to have reintroduced because I know it's it's one of those hidden gems that I think a lot of people overlook, and especially today, no one ever talks about it. But anyway, they announced that they are going to put out a Psycho collection in 4K, and it will be Psycho 2, 3, and 4. And I'm so hyped for that.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I think I have Psycho 2, 3, and 4, but it was like a DVD set that, crammed them all together into one package, and I got it pretty cheap. But to get them all in 4K, I'm elated, and that's a franchise that I definitely want to talk about here on the show sometime. But part 2, I don't know how you feel about them or whatever, but for me, Part 2 does not get talked about enough, and I think it is a solid sequel. Kind of like how I feel about Jaws 2. It's a solid sequel to something that is legendary, and it's better than it has any right to be. So.
No, and I agree with you there. I think it's one of those things where with how legendary the first film is, just like with Jaws, people only tend to focus on maybe if there was one movie that was really bad after it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're releasing them all in 4K, Psycho was just a great all the way through. I mean, you get later into the movies, yes, you might have your faults like any movie, but that is badass. I'm excited about that.
It's funny too. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why I'd never made this connection, but these are two franchises we're talking about, both from Universal. Both that only had 4 in their collection, and both everyone would say took a decline. But I would beg to differ with Psycho. I think they were all great in their own right. 3, without playing my hand too much, that would be a dip, but I still think it's a solid entry. I don't think it's a bad entry because at least they were trying something new. And 4, I don't think gets talked about enough because there's something good. There's just a lot of good stuff there that they explored, and I don't know. I can't wait for it to come out, and I think maybe when it does come out and we get a chance to actually revisit them or something like that, it'd be a good time to come to it.
Yeah,
because
I think we should totally talk about them.
Because it's definitely a buy on my list because I love Psycho and I love Anthony Perkins. I think he's just another underrated horror actor that just, I don't know, he's solid in anything he's ever been in. And tell me Andrew Garfield does not look like him. You look at 2 pictures side by side, it is fucking uncanny. Like, if they had ever done a biopic of Anthony Perkins, Andrew Garfield needs that role, period.
Which is, another actor that I think gets shit on. He is a great fucking actor, and I don't care what anybody says. Anything I've seen him in, I've loved him in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he fell off the radar, and he's a great actor.
He is. That movie, he did a movie... I'm gonna have to look it up so I can speak to it directly. But he did a movie. It was about the guy who was it Stephen Sondheim who wrote Rent.
Is there a scene in the movie where he's watching a guy like play the piano like an old guy, and the old guy's talking about music? I might be thinking of another movie.
Tick, Boom. That's the name of the movie.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not seen that whole movie, but I had seen, for some reason, that scene played somewhere. I can't remember where it played, and I watched it. And that entire scene just pulled me in.
Yeah.
And him and the guy that's talking to him, it's just, Yeah, I don't know. I
think it was.
freaking love him as an actor.
So I got it mixed up. So Stephen Sondheim was the guy who he was his mentor. He was
Okay.
Jonathan. He played Jonathan Larson. Jonathan Larson was the guy who wrote Rent, the musical. So if you've never checked
Which my
that
wife
out,
loves.
yeah, if you've never seen Rent, it's a pretty good musical. If you're into musicals, if you're not, I don't know if I would sell you on it, but it's still good. I think I'm not a huge fan of musicals, but there are some that I love, like Little Shop of Horrors. Love it.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's a go-to anytime. Rocky Horror Picture Show, same thing.
Fun fact, I've never seen the movie Rent, but as a gift for Samantha, because she loves Rent, we went to a theater in Columbus and watched Rent, and I absolutely loved it while we were watching. It was fantastic, and she kept apologizing, like, I'm sorry if this is boring. I'm like, actually, I had a really good time. The songs were good. The cast that they had for the live show was fantastic, and I told her, I was like, I will watch Rent with you. I will watch the movie with you. I said, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to enjoy the movie now that I've watched them perform it live.
Right.
You know, but
yeah,
yeah, no, that's exciting about Psycho though. Like I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Which hasn't happened for a while with movies.
No, when I saw the announcement, I was like, oh shit, and I almost got a little panicked about it because the way the headline wrote it out was it was releasing only in the UK, and I was like, what? That's bullshit. But then they said, but it is region free, so you don't have to worry about the region locking or whatever. So if you wanted to get it, you could still get it. And I was like, okay,
Gotcha.
fair. But again, this was an early announcement, so Arrow may do a region 1 for us in the US because that would be low down. You know, just being like, no, only the UK gets it. It was like, what?
Luckily, you can get 4K players that are unlocked for regions. Like they are a little bit more, but I was looking into a series that was region locked, and I was like, really? Come on.
Yeah.
So I did do a little bit of searching. I have one other thing before we start,
Okay.
and it was something that was tweeted up on our Twitter page.
Okay.
Not gonna get into this a whole lot, but I just want to know why YouTube is being crappy to Troma.
Yeah, I'd like to know the same thing.
So if anybody from YouTube is listening, or anybody that knows why YouTube is treating Troma the way they are, please let us know.
You know, I'm going to speak to a little truth that I have a similar situation in some regards, because I haven't gotten banned from YouTube, but I have had instances where 2 of my videos have been flagged from them. Funny enough, the same video, okay? Just 2 different versions of the same thing. And they never gave me full reasons, and I didn't pursue it, unlike some other people who have pushed a lot harder. And I honestly feel like Lloyd should be pushing so hard because he has an absolute case here, more than most do. But I did a short film back in 2004 called Suicide Story. I've talked about it. I even did like not a documentary, like a director's commentary while watching it or whatever. It's on YouTube. That's on YouTube that you can actually watch. It's still playing, but I'm talking over it. So I guess that was fine. And, I admit that, this was nothing more than fiction. I had no desire to kill myself. It was just, I was in this place where I was trying to be all indie filmmaker and just trying to do, press the boundaries, see what I could do. I'm going to try to do, because I was experimenting with so much in 2004. What could I do? What could I get away with? What could I try? And that was one of them. I did 3 family-oriented shorts prior to that, and then I wanted to go in the opposite direction. So I went full in the opposite direction. Full hard R, let's see what I could do. And just really go into some deep psychological shit. But I know when I watch it, it's still hard for me to watch because it feels pretentious and just, I don't know, I just don't, looking back on it, I know what I was trying to do, but I don't like the way I did it. And I've admitted that. I've openly admitted that. When I did a remaster trying to kind of improve the video quality, because they are old and they were recorded on some really, like an old-ass DV camera, I put it up. The original cut is up. And then I did the remaster and I put that up. Well, the moment that remaster came up, they pulled it. immediately. And we're like, this violates our community guidelines, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, so I came back with them and I was like, so what exactly is violating the community guidelines? Because I'm not advocating for suicide. I'm not advocating that people should do this or anything like that. So what's the deal? And they're just like, well, no, you just violated our guidelines. I was like, you're not telling me anything. I said, so I'm going to dispute this. And I tried. And they were just like, nope, you violated. You violated. And I was like, all right, fuck it. Forget it. But then I also pointed out, I said, so why is this video down, but the same exact video, this of lesser quality, is still up? And you've never flagged it in the 8 or 10 years that it had been up. No answer. No, nothing. So I was like, all right, screw it, whatever. Eventually, they did come back around. I guess their algorithm found it. And then they age-gated it, which is fine. Age-gated, yeah, anyone under 18, fine. You want to age-gate it? I'm perfectly fine with that. But then I also start getting emails. Are you okay? Are you fine? Well, there's suicide prevention hotlines. I was like, God damn it. Did you not listen to anything I said? So all this shit is coming from bots. I wholeheartedly believe that. There's not a human element to this, and I guarantee you that's what happened to Trauma's webpage, is a bot saw something, dug through their algorithm, flagged something, and then took down the entire thing. And it was just like one thing after another, to the point where it could just say, well, we've got to ban this entire channel, even though there was nothing wrong.
I can see that.
Yeah. And I've even seen instances where people have lost their videos. They've been flagged, and then they had to dig to be, start showing proof. And there was even one YouTuber that I listened to their entire spiel about dealing with YouTube, and they said they had to threaten legal for him to actually speak to someone human,
which is insane.
And when they did finally get someone human, everything was, I was like, oh, well, you didn't violate anything. And you know what they did? They showed the picture of what do you call it, the creation of man, that painting, that famous painting.
Okay,
yeah, that's all they did is put that in their video. But because it showed a tallywhacker, but then they went and pointed out, it's like, how many other videos showed this same exact unedited picture? And until they got a human person, the bots were just like, nope, violates our community guidelines.
Well, and it's funny because I've sent you a couple like indie films that people have sent into festivals, and there's murder and everything else in them, and those haven't been banned. And I could see it being bots just searching out things, but that's my big thing. Like, why is it so hard to get a hold of a person? Like, I mean, I get it. We live in that world now where if you want to talk to somebody, you have to like hit 0 on your phone till your phone almost explodes. But it's like, come on. The
bot shouldn't be deciding what's banned, what's pulled. It should be an alert to someone human for them to then review. But even if that's how it works, because they claim there's human review, I don't think they review it. They just see it and they're like, click, ban. They just pass it on.
That's right there a perfect example of why AI shouldn't be doing jobs. It should just be used as a tool.
Exactly.
But we hope Trauma gets justice. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Tweet that. Tweet at, was it Team YouTube, and tell them that they're wrong. Trauma needs to be reinstated, and they're garbage, because they are. We need a different, there needs to be another platform other than YouTube. I would definitely jump ship if I could.
If I knew coding better, we there's what we could do. We could create our own version of YouTube.
I mean, to be fair, I guess if, I could just post everything up on oh shit, my website. Why couldn't I think of my own website? Like, I have the ability to do that. And in fact, I think you can actually see the banned video. I did put it up on the website. So it's there if you want to see it, but I don't recommend it.
I mean, if you do go watch it, let us know if you think it should have been banned on YouTube.
And at least watch my director's commentary, too, because I lay into myself in that movie, or short. It's not a movie, it's a short film. Anyway, doesn't matter. You want to talk about Evil Dead Rise?
Yes, let's talk about Evil Dead Rise. I'm going to say this now because I said it off camera and off mic. This is the first movie in a while that I beat you to, which is crazy. I still haven't watched Cocaine Bear, so you can smack me for that one, because I need to watch it.
It's on Peacock.
I know. Evil Dead Rise is now on Max.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that wants to watch, they have all of the Evil Dead movies on Max.
They do.
Including the remake they did a few years back, which I guess technically isn't exactly a remake. Sort of a...
Now we know.
Yeah, it's yeah, we'll get into that too. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to watch all of them, they are all on Max, and that'd be a fun like all day thing. Just watch some Evil Dead and have some snacks and maybe have a few beers or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
No, I've actually, after watching this, I kind of did think about that. I was like, I bought the Groovy set sometime back, and I've not broken out the discs or anything. So I thought, it'd be the time to do it, to see Evil Dead 1 and 2 in 4K and see what that looks like, and I even have Army of Darkness, so I could slide that in there and then ease into Ash vs. Evil Dead, just do a whole big marathon.
That would be pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ash vs. Evil Dead is still on, it was on Netflix. I think they might have moved it somewhere else, but I need to watch it. I didn't get the chance to finish it. I know they've talked about doing an animated series to finish out Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Well, if they could, if they wanted to, I'd be, as long as they got the right animation house behind it.
Yeah, I honestly think it would be cool in anime style.
Yeah, that would be kind of neat.
That would be pretty badass. But before we hop into the main story, what were your thoughts on Evil Dead Rise?
I think I enjoyed this one more than I did the last one, the remake, because they were doing something new, but then there was also familiarity to it, and I think it felt a lot more claustrophobic than the cabin. Even though I understand that the cabin, is kind of the same thing, but you're still out in the middle of the woods and you still kind of come out of the cabin. Here, it just felt like you're really contained within this building and there was just no way out. So I felt like that elevated, no pun intended, the scenes and the atmosphere. And I don't know, I really did kind of enjoy how this one kind of portrayed everything. And I know that some people are gore hounds, and this one didn't skimp on that, but I also feel like it didn't go out of its way to just make every scene as graphic as possible, as intense as possible. It's like they saved them and kind of held them off here and there, so it wasn't just like a cavalcade of just gore crammed into your face like the last one. Again, I enjoyed it, but I felt like everything had more of an impact because you were sparsing it out. So when it was coming and you saw it, you're like, oh shit. And then it just did it and you're like, ugh. But then it wasn't continued from that point on. They would just move on and then save for another scene and another scene. So I appreciated that more. But I enjoyed how they kind of laid it all out. There were, like I said, felt familiar in a lot of aspects. I enjoyed the way the Deadite situation. I do want to go into that a little deeper later on. But I don't know, just the way it was laid out, it was a very original idea. They weren't trying to retread new ground completely. There was a very familiar idea, just in a different setting, and I felt like that helped refresh it in some ways. And I kind of hope that they look at that for future movies if they wanted to do. I don't know what their plans are, if they're trying to do something expansive or if they want to do more smaller ideas like this. I would be down for that, to be honest. Think of a different setting. That kind of be your trope for a bit. Just where could you put this and it would actually work, because it does. It needs to kind of be these smaller settings. And I think that also helped with it too. Kind of a bottle episode, if you will, just where it's contained. But I think you might be limited to that because even thinking of where that could work, I don't know. But this was a smart idea, I think. So yeah, I definitely think I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the last one.
Fair. That's very fair. How do I put it? I did enjoy this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that they, as you said, they used the gore where they needed to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just pump it into everything. The only thing that I sort of had a little bit of a gripe with, I did feel like it was just a little rushed. Just a little.
Okay.
In some regards, but that seems to be like a recurring thing with me in movies lately. Like I want just a little bit more. And the only other thing that maybe not so much as a gripe, but maybe I just felt a little misled. When they talked about this movie, you know, they're like, yeah, it's taking place in this apartment building, this whole apartment building.
Yeah.
And then you get one floor of the apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about that, when I first watched the movie, I was like, well, it was only one floor. Like, I thought we were going to get, like, a bunch of deadites. This whole building was going to go into total chaos and everything else. And I was like, really? Like, I thought we were going to get the whole building, you know? And I felt like a little let down by that. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know, it actually works better this way. Because, like you said, it's like it was contained. It was you were trapped there with it. It's more claustrophobic. And the thing that really made me appreciate that was when they were going down, they were going to try to go down the steps to get away. Mm-hmm. And the earthquake had completely destroyed the stairs. So there was really no way out because the elevator wasn't working right. Yeah. Or anything else. Or they didn't think it was working, you know, safely. Mm-hmm. And, you know, after getting past my first assumptions, because if you think about it, when they talked about this movie, you really did think we were going to get, like, this whole apartment building full of deadites. Yeah. But, I don't know, it really worked by making it a more confined area. Like you said, it gives you that claustrophobic feel. And I am a sucker for gore when it comes to Evil Dead, but seeing them tone it down as far as not just pushing it in every scene really worked for me. Yeah. In this, because you expect a lot of gore with Evil Dead. Like, let's be honest. Yeah. Even the originals, you expect to have some level of gore, but as weird as it sounds, like the first Evil Dead, yes, you know, we had gore. Second, you know, yes, we had gore. Army of Darkness, you know, we had gore in those movies, but you have to think about when those movies were made. The effects weren't exactly, you know, what they are today. So gore looked a little bit different in movies then. Right. And then this remake we got a few years back, they really upped the gore factor. So, you know, part of you's like, oh, cool, this is going to be the new norm. Like, I can dig it. Then we get this movie, and this movie felt like it sort of balanced out the classics and that remake that they did. Exactly. Yeah. Like, it was a perfect little balance of the gore from each of those movies, and that really helped me appreciate this movie. I'm a little afraid to use cheese graters now, I will admit.
Yeah, boy, that hurt.
Yeah. And we can get into specific scenes, but was there anything about the movie? I mean, did you feel like the movie felt a little rushed, or how did you feel? Like, I thought the pacing was good, but I just felt like the overall story kind of hurried through, if that makes sense.
No, I think they hit all the right beats, because I was even thinking about that just as I was kind of going through it. I felt like maybe the first 40 minutes of the film, they were kind of establishing everybody. We get Beth as kind of our hero of the story, and kind of see that they said she was a band groupie, I guess, is what they were kind of implying. Because I know that kept coming up, groupie.
Yeah, the family, she worked, I can't think of what the actual title was. I know she, like, worked on their equipment.
Okay, so part of the band, or backstage band help. Yeah, something like that. So not a groupie per se, just I think groupie.
Her sister thought of her as one. Sure. Yeah.
So that's where it kind of became almost like a what would you call it? An insult. You know, anytime she was being called a groupie, she's like, "That's not what I am." So, I mean, we get that established early on, and we also find out that she's pregnant, and we're kind of led to kind of wonder, well, what is that going to entail going forward? Because we realize that, you know, just from the emotion on her face, she's not ready for this. She's not down for this. She's just like in a panic. And then she goes to see her sister. We see that her sister has the 3 kids. They're all kind of playful with one another, which I appreciated too. We didn't have a lot of hateful kids.
I did like the kids. I will say that all day. I liked in the short time in the beginning where they established the kids and how they are as people. I thought they did a really good job with that.
Yeah. There was nothing about them that felt... Because normally when you have kids, you always have like one jerk-ass kid, you know? And none of the kids, to me, felt like they were... They would take care of each other. You know, they fought here and there, you know, had a little arguments. But overall, there was that one scene where the little sister was chasing the bigger sister, and then she runs into the one brother's room and shuts the door, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." And then they grab her in and just start tickling her and whatever.
They're tickling her and they're having their little fun little fight.
That to me was like everything that scene needed to be, because it established their sibling relationship just like that, and I was like, that's perfect. We see that they get along, they take care of each other, they care for one another. That's great. Mother, same way. She seems like she's, I don't want to say distant, but you understand that she's also kind of going through some stuff, but she never feels cold toward them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of understand that she's dealing, she's processing, but at the same time, she's still trying to take care of her kids, and she seems like a decent mother. She's trying. She's doing the best she can, being a single mom, and you get that feeling from her. And then, of course, when they all kind of come together, obviously they didn't talk about the husband leaving, so you already kind of got that vibe that there was something going on. And then when she brings it up, then that seals it. But then that also opens the door to understand the friction between the two sisters and what may be going on there, because the older sister, Ellie, I think's her name, she was like, I tried telling you, I tried calling you, and you didn't, I tried telling you and you just didn't answer. You didn't listen to my texts. And sure enough, she pulls up voicemails and there's the messages, and she's like, son of a bitch. So, and it's like when all that hits, that's when everything starts to kind of unravel. And then that's where we get the earthquake. That's when the one brother, he finds the tomes downstairs in the vault, and then everything goes to chaos from that point on. So I thought, again, within those first 40 minutes, they establish enough to get us going, and then that's when the chaos takes off for the last hour.
I guess that's where there were certain parts with Ellie when she became a Deadite that I guess I felt were a little rushed. Just certain aspects of, like, when she was torturing the family, when she was, torturing the people in the apartment complex. She made quick work of everybody in the hall.
Yeah.
And I guess part of me kind of wishes that would have maybe played out just a tiny bit more. That's something about the Evil Dead I've always loved. Mm-hmm. It kind of seems like the Deadites enjoy torturing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when Ellie became a Deadite, it was kill, 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 kill.
Oh, yeah.
And it worked. Don't get me wrong, it worked. But I guess I just wanted, like, just a smidge more of that, like, torture aspect. Mm-hmm. Instead of ripping that guy's throat out, maybe she has him on the ground, and he kind of had a thing for her.
Yeah.
Maybe have the Deadite version of her sort of tease him about that.
Sure.
Other than that, no, I felt like everything played out in a smooth order. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give a shout out real quick while we're on it. Alyssa Sutherland, who plays Ellie, phenomenal. Yeah. I don't think they could have pulled... I'm sure they could have found some other actresses, maybe, but she did one hell of a job.
And one thing I want to say to right on top of that was she is a beautiful woman, but
yes.
What they did, her look as a Deadite, is far creepier than any Deadite that we've seen, in my opinion. There was just something about her look that just seemed more devious, more vicious. Just the looks. Maybe it's just her performance overall, but she just had a look that you could look at her and say, that's a Deadite. But just something off about her that just made it even creepier. And I have to say that was good casting, not just from her performance alone, but her looks on top of that.
I honestly think a lot of it is like you said, she is a very beautiful woman. But to see her, like, with the Deadite look that they give her, it looks like her. She's just the skin is a different tone, mm-hmm. The eyes are different, and to me, what it was, as weird as it sounds, like she was even when she became a Deadite, you could still see that beautiful woman that she was.
Yeah. But
then you see these scenes where she, like in the bathtub, when she has her hands come up.
Yeah.
And you see those eyes. Her eyes are different. Her face still looks pretty much like it did when she was human, but then she jumps up, she screams, and it's like within this beauty there is this evil.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what really sold it. That's what made her one of the best Deadites I've ever seen. It's like Oh God.
And a devilish smile to boot. I think that's another thing
Yes.
that really sells it is, I mean, not to say that none of the others had, wicked looking smiles, but hers, it's
Yeah.
like borderline Joker with a deadite.
Yeah.
And it's creepy, but in all the best ways. Like it just adds an extra layer to it.
I think that's what it was with her, like just the shape of her face and everything, and not overdoing it with prosthetics. You know, sometimes all it takes is a little bit of makeup, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, give her an award for that. I mean, come on. She just, I love the scene. I love the scene in the bathroom when the little girl's like, "Mommy," and she's like, "Mommy's with the maggots now." Just the way she looks when she says that. When I first watched that scene, I'm just thinking to myself, shit's about to hit the fan. And, of course, shit hit the fan. But, God, I think the scenes they did when they focused on her, they did wonderfully. Another one I'll shout out is when they have her in the bed.
Okay, yeah.
And her eyes are open, and the fly lands on her eye. And the sister's talking about, how she'll never get to talk to her again and, this, that, and the other. And she closes her eye, and then she turns and she looks at her real quick.
Yeah.
That alone, just with her movements, her performance, that's what sells it. I couldn't imagine playing a deadite.
Right? Yeah.
Not with that much energy. There's certain roles like have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
So I can't think of his name. He's one of the drug sellers in it. He's the one that he snorts some of the meth or whatever off of his knife, and he's like, kicks like a mule with his balls duct taped, and he's like real nuts. The actor that played him said that he really wanted that character to get killed off early on because it was exhausting to play that character. Being a deadite, I couldn't imagine how exhausting it could be. It's just like when Bruce Campbell would beat the shit out of himself.
Yeah.
In the movies, and even in the show, that's got to be exhausting. So for her to put on the performance, and obviously she's not beating the shit out of herself and everything else, but with how quick the deadites snap, and they, for a second you think they're going to comfort you, and then the next second they're trying to rip your throat out.
Yeah.
That level, I can't imagine. And out of all the deadites in the movie, she is the one that does that the most, because when the kids become deadites, it's not as extreme. I know that sounds weird, but to me it wasn't as extreme. Like, she was extreme with it. And another scene, and I know I'm kind of bouncing here, another scene that really shows that to me is when she's singing the song outside the door.
Yeah.
And she convinces Cassie, the youngest. She convinces Cassie to, Cassie looks through the peek hole, and she's like, "You don't look so good, Mom." She's like, "Nothing that a kiss from you won't fix." The smile, the blood on her. Again, it's just simple makeup effects. But with her face and everything, like, you still kind of feel like there's this beautiful mother in there.
And, there was, speaking of that scene, I'm really surprised they didn't utilize, I think it was a trick that, what's her name? Ash's girlfriend from the Evil Dead.
Yep.
I know, it's right there. People are just shouting it right now, going, I know, for some reason it's slipping my mind, but I'm just going to keep going. So anyway, in those movies, there would be, remember when he had her head like roped into the
the vice thing?
The vice, thank you. Jesus Christ, I can't even think words. But he's got her head in the vice, and before, like in 1 minute, it's all deadite and everything, and then she swaps back to the regular face to cry. Yeah. And I'm saying they never did that with her, which I was kind of surprised by. They never had like a flip flop for a moment where she comes back to looking normal, just be like, "Please let me in." Oh my God, like that. How would you not be sucked into that? Especially the little girl. But they never went that route, and I was kind of surprised by that.
After I watched the movie, I was I don't know why I have a habit of doing this, but after I watch a movie, I'll Google it and I'll see what people are saying about it. Get their opinions on things that happen. And somebody had,
sorry, I had to get it out.
There it is. No, you're good.
Continue.
Somebody sort of touched on that. On how she didn't change, and they were like, if you think about it, the last thing that she really got to say before her soul was taken completely taken was when it's before she dies, and it's actually when Ellie completely dies for real. It's in the kitchen when she's down on the floor and she's crawling at them, and the last thing she says is, "Don't let them take my babies."
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, and I was like, the director of this film flat out said that this is a different Book of the Dead. There are 3 books of the dead. There's the book that Ash knows. There's the book that is from the remake that they did a few years ago, and then there's the book from this movie. So my thought was, what if this book is different, and it can take souls just in a snap.
Yeah.
The other books are a little bit slower about it. They want it seems like the Deadites in the other movies, they enjoy when the person they've possessed is trying to fight for their soul.
Yeah.
This book's just down to business. Like, that was kind of my thought process on it.
No, I can agree with that. I was even trying to establish, when he said, because they specifically stated in the movie 3 tomes, so it wasn't like the director just came out after the fact and was like, yeah, there are 3 books. No, they state it in their recordings, which I thought was very smart. And then it got me thinking about, have we technically seen all 3, as in one movie? Because there was that scene in Army of Darkness where Ash found the 3 books, and granted, 2 of them seemed like decoys, and then you had the one that was the actual book. But it made me wonder if that maybe wasn't where they kind of got a play on that, and if, in fact, those were 2 of the 3 books that we had not seen yet. Because in my mind, looking at this one, because it had teeth, I thought this would be the one that kind of flew at him. It was like attacked him, like bit his hand, and then flew up in the air. Again, I know it's a goofy scene, doesn't really compare here, but that's the past. This thing could have grown, and grown teeth and shit. So that was kind of if I'm looking at it from that perspective, that would be the book I would assume this one is.
Yeah.
I have no proof, just spitballing based on the way it acted. But I did like the design, the teeth. I thought that was a very unique way, and of course, kind of gave it a way to nick your victims, and then you feed it the blood, and then it can kind of come alive from that way.
I loved that concept.
Yeah.
The book would not open without the blood.
Yeah.
I thought that was unique, to say the least, about it. I know the director joked that it would be cool to have all 3 books come together and form one book, and I think that would be cool. I think it would be cool if Beth would seek out the survivor of the remake.
Yeah.
And they would both seek out Ash. And they could do like an Indiana Jones type thing. Ash thinks he's too old to be fighting Deadites. And like, he's not used to these Deadites because these Deadites are a lot stronger.
Yeah.
A lot different. I think that would be an interesting concept if they would do it. Not saying that they would.
If you're going to establish this stuff, I think you need to play with it and see what you can do with it. And I know he said he's retired the character, but I think that if they had the right story where all of this could culminate together, I think he would do it. I could be wrong.
And Sam Raimi came back.
Yeah, I think because Sam even said, if he wants to get him back one more time, and if they can work out the right story, I think it would be a fun ride to see how they could make this work and maybe explain it all. Because if you're going to establish that, because I do want to talk about that too, because there are elements to these movies that I appreciate that they don't over-explain, but if you're going to establish something like this, you're going to have to give us something. Now, granted, the recording does a little bit of the heavy lifting, kind of explaining details here and there about this particular tome. But there was another thing too, watching this, that I realized that I enjoy about these movies, that they never quite explain how you become possessed. It just happens. And I like that, because you don't know who's going to be next, if anybody. Because you just look around the room, it's not like you get cut or you get attacked or anything like that. It's just like, now it's your turn, Sometimes it could be you, and maybe there's more to it that I'm missing, but I never got that. Like with Bridget, when she was the elder sister, and when she got, I guess, possessed, it just kind of hit her out of the blue. And the way that even started, man, I would love to know how they did the effects, because they look practical as hell. Where she was suddenly bleeding out of her nose, and it was just like, Jesus Christ, man. And it just looked so thick. And you're sitting there wondering, it's like, where the hell is this coming from? But it's just pouring out of her, and she's panicking. And, of course, that just kind of leads to her being possessed. And then the glass eating, and just seeing that through her throat. That was rough.
I was going to mention that scene. That I loved the way that they did that. You know, they could have gone really graphic with the throat stuff. Mm-hmm. But just hinting that you can see it coming through her throat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It made me uncomfortable.
And that's one of those times where just, you know, you don't have to go all the way. You just take it just enough, and that's more terrifying than actually seeing it tear through her throat or something like that. You're just thinking about her swallowing shards and what that's doing. It's just like, Jesus Christ, man.
Now, see, I was trying to think about, as you were saying, you know, not knowing who is getting possessed. The only thing that I noticed all the people in this film who got possessed had in common was being attacked by a deadite and being, you know, cut or scratched or something like that. But I thought about that, and I'm like, well, Beth did get stabbed through the hand, mm-hmm. and she did get the cheese grater to the leg. Yeah. But part of me, overthinking as I do, thought, what if the soul of her baby is protecting her?
Okay, yeah.
Just a thought. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think about the other Evil Dead films, the remake that they did. The first girl that gets possessed, other than the main girl, right before she gets possessed, what happens to her? She gets puked on by that girl. And it kind of seems like it travels down through everyone that way. I'm not saying that that's how it spreads, but sure. I'm just, you know, I feel like sometimes that gives you a little bit of an idea. Yeah. Of who may fall victim. Obviously, you know, in the original movies, Ash gets, you know, puked on and he gets put through the ringer and everything. But it's like, there's got to be something that protects these people from getting possessed. I mean, Ash that's how he lost his hand. His hand got possessed.
That's what I was about to say. He did get infected.
But he was able to cut it away. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I feel like it's something that could, like, loosely be explained if they would want to explain it. Yeah. But as weird as it sounds, if they don't explain it, I really don't care.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I wanted to say. As I don't want it to be explained. I think it makes it more fun not knowing, because with demon possession, that's what this is. You don't know. It just kind of infects people, and it just happens to people. And speaking of that, I was really surprised that the kids became deadites. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because these were kids, you know? They weren't like 20, 30-year-olds posing as like college students or some shit. Like, these were kids. And I was a little surprised that they allowed... Like, they went that road. Now, granted, the littlest one, I figured she would be safe. But that just made it even more tragic for her, because she lost her entire family outside of her aunt. But that just tragic for her.
And if you think about it, too, the kids, Ellie's kids, are not the only kids in this movie that got turned into deadites, if you think about it. True. One of my favorite deaths actually happens to one of the kids. She spits that, she bites that guy's eye out, and she spits it across the room, and it goes in the one kid's throat. Yeah. Him and his little brother both get turned into deadites.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She kills them in the hall, and you don't really see her necessarily kill them in the hall. I think they briefly show it happen. But they both become deadites, and that one kid was fairly young, I think. Yeah. Maybe not as young as Cassie, but pretty young.
Yeah. And that was kind of a nice little twist, you know.
Yeah, like to show that even kids aren't safe against this. And, you know, in all fairness, I have to just shout this out because it's related to it. They even mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street. They made a reference to Wes Craven, which seems to be something that kind of happens in these movies, which I love. You know, funny little reference, knocks on the door, hey, mom's not home, we're watching all the Freddy movies, and the little brother's like, even the shitty ones, there are no shitty ones. Yeah. Come on, that's great. It's fantastic.
As soon as I saw that, I looked at Katrina and said, that's Les right there, eating Cheetos.
That would be me. Oh man, but yeah, I agree with you there. Like, that's not something that we've ever seen. Like, we've seen like animal heads and stuff become possessed and everything like that, but they've never crossed that line with the kids.
Yeah. So this adds yet another element to this movie. They're doing something different, something we haven't seen. So I think that's one of the reasons I kept watching this, enjoying it, because it's a very familiar idea, but with new ideas incorporated that we've not seen before. So it didn't feel like retreading familiar ground, and I appreciated the hell out of that. But in the one time that they actually did retread familiar ground, it was in all the best ways, is when they were in the hallway and all the Deadites, dead by dawn, dead by dawn. I was like, yes, dead by dawn, baby. So I enjoyed the hell out of that.
You know, that scene in the hall is just so beautifully done. And when the elevator door closes and the blood starts to come in and you see all the arms coming up from the top, it wasn't so much like, it wasn't scary necessarily or anything like that, but you're watching this happen, you're like, I don't know if these guys are fucked or not. Yeah. And it adds this level of excitement. For me anyways. I've always found the Evil Dead films exciting to a degree. They get the adrenaline going. And this scene, I mean, it was like a theme park ride from hell. It really was. And, you know, I guess something that I want to talk to you about, that I majorly want to talk to you about, how did you feel about what happened with Ellie and the kids at the end?
Oh, like becoming some body horror beast.
Big conglomerate. Like, how did you feel about that? Like, part of me kind of felt like it was a little cheesy at first.
Again, going back to what I said before, this is something we had not seen, so they've done body horror in Evil Dead before, but this seemed like some Cronenberg-esque shit where they just really kind of dug in deep and they just became this malformed thing out of, what do you call it, Lovecraft or some shit like that. So I thought it was kind of an interesting idea. Granted, there, again, no explanation as to why this happened to be one of the things from the tome that they showed was this beast or whatever it was supposed to be. So I was kind of looking at it as maybe this is kind of a personification of the faceless beast that we never get to see in all the other movies, where it's just traveling through the forest or what have you. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is kind of this versions of that. So I kind of took it like that. This is kind of like your big bad in a way.
See, I felt sort of in regards to that. I felt like this thing was making them a family again, making them a family together, literally. And they were trying to pull the rest of them in. I mean, it would have been interesting to see if this thing would have pulled in everyone that had turned into a Deadite and it turned into this big creature from, like, The Thing.
Yeah.
But I don't. When I first saw it, I was like a little thrown off, and I think I was thrown off because I'm not used to seeing something like that.
Yeah.
In the Evil Dead, and so at first I found it a little cheesy until we get a little more into the scene down in the garage where it's crawling around the car. Mm-hmm. Like, I really liked that.
Yeah.
I thought that was, and I guess you have to have a big bad.
Sure.
In these films.
Mm-hmm.
But the effects were even good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like Evil Dead is really good at practical stuff. Even the movies that they did way back, they were good about doing practical effects.
I'm sure there was some CG in this movie, but I couldn't tell you where. I mean, with a lot of the things that they did, I mean, a lot of the stuff that they used seemed very, very practical and in all the best ways. And even if it was digital, they did it so well, or so very subtle with it that you couldn't tell. I mean, I would imagine the eye fly scene had to be in some ways digital, or maybe they just had a dummy, or I don't know, but it looked pretty real to me.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they did a little CGI fly, you would never know.
Yeah, it looked real to me, so it's just impressive. This shows smaller budgets, like you argued earlier. Smaller budgets. They are practical. They know what their limitations are, and I think that was another thing that I even wanted to kind of point out. Limitations make you creative. When you have millions and millions of dollars, Disney dollars, and you can just throw whatever you want, you're just like, whatever. But when you have limitations, you have a budget, and you have to stick to that. You're just like, wow, what can we do to get around this? What can we do? And sometimes that makes you more creative. And I think that's why this works on so many levels, is because it's like small budget, small space, figure it out, And they did, and they got very creative with a lot of the stuff that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading somewhere a while back they were going to try to start doing blood in films, completely CGI.
Yeah.
And that would not work.
No.
I'm sorry, but it wouldn't. You know, another shout out to this movie, the Blood Full of Elevator. I'm gonna just say that was a reference to The Shining, whether they want to say it is or not.
Oh, it definitely was.
I mean, it was over the top.
Yeah. But
it
we
worked
have those
for
yeah.
Evil Dead. You expect it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to admit, the biggest thing I was a little bummed out about was something that we talked about being really cool. We had talked about this on. I think we talked about this when we talked about Evil Dead as a franchise.
Okay.
It was when the faceless demon that possesses comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The elevator scene is wonderful. I love that scene.
Yeah.
It didn't have vines, so it uses the wires and everything. It still would have been cool to see it, bounce through a heating vent, kind of confused about where it was. I know we talked about that before. That would have been cool, but I gotta admit, when she's trying to get loose and it grabs her arms and it grabs her legs so she can't.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that was rough. And you mentioned the vent. You made me remember one detail that never paid off, which was the cat. They had the cat in the vent. And there was that moment where she looked up at the vent and you saw the cat and it ran off. And I thought, is she going to go after the cat? Is she going to, what's going on there? And it never paid off. Now, granted, I don't remember how, I'm assuming the vent got used to get back in the apartment or something like that.
She, it's the scene where Beth is listening to the recording with the headphones on.
Yeah.
Ellie climbs up into the vent. She climbs past the kids. And it's when Danny is about to be attacked by Bridget.
Okay.
Because while Danny's being attacked by Bridget, I believe, Ellie drops down into the room. Well, she doesn't drop down. She crawls across the wall.
Yeah.
And Beth sees her reflection in the window. Mm. And when she turns, that scene, when Ellie takes her finger and puts it on the record player and opens her mouth and plays it,
good stuff.
Come on. I mean, I wish that they wouldn't have killed off. Like, I kind of wish Ellie would have lived.
Yeah.
Or kind of like her version, like that Deadite version would have survived, because I would love to see her in another movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they can find a way to maybe reincorporate her some way, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it would be cool if the Deadites could take the form of the people.
Sure. And that would be a way to fuck with Beth if she comes back, and even Cassie for that matter.
She was wonderful in this. I mean, give her the Deadite reward.
Yeah.
Because, Jesus. I don't know. Like I said, I felt like certain things were just a little rushed, but I feel like that's just because I wanted more, if that makes sense. You enjoy something, you want more of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So...
Now, I did want to, we haven't touched on this at all, but the beginning and the end of the film, beginning is the end and the end is the beginning, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So you had, the movie starts, if you've not seen it, and if you're listening to this, I would assume you have seen it, because we spoiled the shit out of it. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting take, because I wasn't sure if these characters were the characters we were going to be following, because you saw the one girl kind of laying in the bed, and then you had the other one. Reading Wuthering Heights, by the way, which I don't think a lot of people got that wink and a nod reference to Wuthering Heights. There are a lot of narrative similarities to this movie and that book. Not like page for page or anything like that, but elements. So I think that was kind of a nod to just be like, eh. And then, of course, there's the monologue from the Deadite girl whose name I can't remember, but she just sets up and starts monologuing from the book. I thought it was kind of a creepy thing to do. Yeah. And then next thing you know, that girl's running out, scalped, running to the dock, and you're like, holy shit, what happened? And it just elevates, and then she takes that drone and just cuts her head, falls into the water, and then that's how the movie begins, her rising up out of the water, and the titles Rise up behind her. I was like, I see what you're doing. That's clever.
I love when her boyfriend dives in.
Yeah, why did he do that? Because that was the first thing that came out of mine and Katrina's mouth, is like, dude, she just took a blade to her face and you're jumping in after her? What is wrong with you?
After she ripped the girl's scalp off.
Yeah.
Would have been a perfect opportunity to be like, I'm going to the car.
Yeah, grab the girl and get the hell out. and grab your hair while you're going. So it's just like, Jesus Christ, man. But the drone shot at the beginning, that was a nice touch, kind of reminiscing back to the old movies with the through the forest.
Makes that quick reference to everything, and the scalping scene too.
Mm.
I like how quickly they boom cut away.
Yeah.
Because before you even have time to fully react to it, you're just like, what the and then you're on to the next thing. Like, I love when films do that.
Oh yeah.
But,
it's much more effective.
But as you said, we get all the way to the end and we find out that the girl that gets possessed in the beginning is, and she's still out there. Yeah, that's the thing.
And that did kind of raise a question, because now that was almost like showing it spread like a disease. She doesn't have the book. She doesn't have any of the documents and everything like that. So she just got possessed in the building, or at least. Yeah, because she was talking to the girl on the phone. The girl on the phone was the girl that got scalped. So so the girl that was actually possessed, she got possessed there, but then went all the way to this cabin out on a lake, and then that's where it all kind of fell apart. So you just kind of start wondering, it's like, what happened between A and B?
Yeah, it's almost like the demon. It needs to find other victims, and it's like the demon knew that everyone in the apartment building was dead.
Yeah.
Already. So I'm sure that, and obviously the demon's able to point out other people's weaknesses and everything, so it must have all the memories that the people it possesses have.
Yeah.
So this demon must have known that this girl was going somewhere, and maybe it was just there, just waiting to take over so that she could go about her business. Because the remake that they did a few years ago, it kind of showed she slowly started to get possessed. Like, it slowly started to take over.
Right.
So maybe that was what it was. Maybe this thing kind of waits so that it can spread. Like, it wants to spread. It wants to go further. And, like, my thought process with it is, if they do another movie, are they going to follow the girl that, they showed in the beginning? Because I can tell you right now, if they were to have her, like, take her regular form, but have the cuts on her face...
Yeah.
out in the woods needing help, and somebody tries, obviously somebody's like, oh God, this girl's hurt, we need to help her. More chaos can ensue.
Yeah.
So.
And if you think about it, that's the very first time any of these movies have actually done something like that. Because where some of the others do kind of set up, outside of one, and even the remake, they don't really set up any kind of sequel per se. And I guess, they really don't. I guess 2 is really the only one it kind of did. But they don't, this is setting up a different situation altogether that we've never seen. And like I said, it spread. The book is nowhere to be found near that thing, or at least we don't think it went back up to the apartment, found the book, and said, I'm going to take this with me. We don't know that. The book was nowhere to be found in the cabin. So it was just simply, she got possessed, she left, and then now it's affecting someone else. So it's almost like it's out there in the world now, all because of this one incident in the high rise. And that, to me, just makes it more interesting, because what do you do in that situation? Because you don't have any of the facts. There's just this deadite out in the world attacking people, possessing other people. What do? You don't have anything to go on. At least they had the book, and they had the recordings and stuff like that.
Now, maybe Army of Darkness sort of briefly touched on this. The deadites are drawn to the book, aren't they?
Yes, because I think that was one of the reasons they stormed the castle, was to come get the book back.
So at the end of the Evil Dead remake from a few years ago, she burns the cabin down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, her brother does. Burns the cabin down with the book inside.
Sure.
What if, just a hypothetical here, what if the shot we got in the beginning of this movie from the drone flying over, what if those were the same woods where that happened?
Ooh. Oh,
and what if that deadite goes to find that book? It's a different book, but could be something to that.
Now, do you think, since we've kind of established there seem to be kind of different deadite types within the books, do you think they conflict with one another? So if they were to find that book and be like, hey, that feels like the book that I'm looking for, but it's different, does that change that deadite and who they are, or can they even...
See, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What if it could give them different abilities? What if it could make them stronger? What if the books have different levels of strength? I mean, it could even be a situation where what if someone rebuilt on that property.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. That's actually a really good point.
See, there's so much to kind of dig into. It's fascinating.
And could you imagine? I mean, imagine there's a bunch of Deadites from all the different books, and all the books become one. All the books combine and become one. Does that basically make all the Deadites on steroids? Do they all strengthen up?
Yeah. Because
all of the books have come together? I mean, there's so much more to Evil Dead than what you really think. I mean, it's a simple concept, but at the same time, they could make it something so much bigger than what it is.
And you gotta appreciate that they've added lore in without complicating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they've done just enough. It's like, here's a little bit more, but we're not going to overdo it. So now our brains are wondering, it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? But nothing is contradictory to the things that they've added in. It's just extra layers to what we knew. And now we're trying to figure it out. They may have like a whole map laid out and it was like, here, this connects to this dot and this connects to that. And they know exactly what everything is, but they're just giving everything out in little bits.
Yeah.
And I gotta appreciate that.
You know, I could see, as weird as it sounds, I could see a finale. I know in Ash versus Evil Dead, he fought that big giant Deadite.
Mm-hmm.
I could honestly see the books combining and seeing sort of the same concept of what happened at the end of Evil Dead Rise with the kids fusing with their mother. But imagine just a ton of Deadites just digging into each other. Obviously, the gore would be unlike anything anybody's ever seen, but all of them digging into each other and becoming this just unholy thing. And then you see 3 chainsaws come out of the darkness to cut this thing apart, to destroy this thing. I mean, I don't know. I would kind of like to see a human centipede-esque kind of Deadite. That would be kind of cool. That would be interesting to see.
They could even do it a step further, make it really messed up. Like the heads are already in the ass.
I mean, we did have that really disturbing scene where Ash was, in that Deadite. I mean, now you got my brain going. Just thinking about all these books but I mean, it would be interesting to see that Deadite fight, because it's almost like the books are beacons for them.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they're always lock them away. Don't talk about them. Don't touch them.
Yeah.
Because that does make sense. It's almost like, oh, someone's talking about us. Hey, let's go. Yeah,
it's like, is it and is each book a different demon, or is it the same demon? And based on what book is read from, the demon has different abilities or different ways that it does things.
Now, see, didn't they gave a name to the demon in the original Evil Dead? Because for some reason the name Kandar keeps popping in my head.
I feel like that was either its name or one of the words in the original one.
Yeah, it might be. But I felt like they gave that thing more of a personality, or at least like you said, a presence of sorts. And I don't remember them really actually giving this a name. They just, like in the recordings, it was just like this evil, these demon possessions, yada yada. But it was being very vague about it.
Was it the first movie or the second movie where the deer head gets possessed?
Second one.
Okay. Because in the second, in that one where the deer head gets possessed, I feel like that's just strictly the demon.
Yeah.
Like, that's its personality.
Trying to
And honestly, the only way to truly kill a Deadite for good, I mean, I know Ash decapitates them, but it seems like the only way anymore to actually completely destroy them is to burn them.
Yeah. And well, you know what? That was another scene I wanted to talk about too. Now that you mentioned that, when they put her in the bathtub and it just started like writhing, like ah.
Yeah.
I was curious about that because they didn't really go into great detail about what was going on.
I honestly, from what I kind of gathered, and maybe this is just me again overthinking or trying to explain something with no explanation. I know they talked about her burning up, so I'm wondering if the demons need to stay hot.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too. Was it just the cold water that would just seem like it was,
Yeah, because if you think about it, as soon as they put her into the water starts to boil.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're that hot and you're being put in, like, the shock to the demon's body would, I'm sure, cause something. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
Well, all I found was that it was just called a Kandarian demon, so it was a type of demon, but it was not its name. So
Now, I wonder if there is actual true lore about a Kandarian demon, if that's something that is real.
Well,
in folklore.
I don't know. Let's see if there's a tab for it.
If you look it up and you start changing an appearance or something, I'm getting off here.
Well, I now lost it wherever I was reading it. Damn it! Because there was a. See, that even sounds weird too. Because there was the book was Sumerian, and I don't know why Kandarian demon is a thing. Well, shit, I've lost it. I'll have to dig later. But yeah, no. I don't really know what more I want to say about this movie. One thing, I guess, other thing that I could think of that I did want to mention was how I realized how much I appreciated the vicious attitude that the Deadites have. And for some reason, I'm not saying that they've never been this vicious or mean, but it almost felt like Ellie's Deadite persona was just found like emotional triggers and knew exactly where to attack and would just say some of the meanest, hateful shit. But it was all kind of packaged in truth. So it was just like, oh man, you just like hit them with a serious truth bomb. And that was uncalled for, but also not completely untrue. So it was just like really just digging into somebody, not just being mean, just vicious, like a knife. I don't know. It was just, there were quite a few lines that I just heard and I was like, God damn, you're just being mean as shit right now.
Yeah, she took it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
And I respect them for doing that. Because the whole point of the demon is to prey on your vulnerabilities, to torture you both psychologically and physically. So just, like you said, the truth bombs that got dropped just...
They stung.
Yeah. And I think that helped make the characters more sympathetic. Like, I know one of the big complaints that I had seen was that people were like, yeah, you really can't sympathize with these characters. And I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah, no. These characters, in my opinion, were absolutely sympathetic. And I felt bad for all of them. And especially the little girl. I mean, I know that Cassie, she survived. But the fact that she had to reluctantly impale her sister through the head... That was like, shit. With Stephanie. We didn't mention Stephanie.
Yeah, I think everybody needs a Stephanie in their life.
Yeah, because Stephanie saved her ass.
Yeah. You know, I will say this in all fairness. I don't think you can necessarily sympathize with the other people in the apartment building. Maybe not as much.
Yeah, that one guy was a real creep.
But even though you can't necessarily sympathize with them a lot, they did establish enough to where you did ask questions about them. And then when they die, you're kind of like, oh, well, I'm sure that person could have offered more, you know. What else would have happened with these people?
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of wish they would do another Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting. And it doesn't have to focus on Ash or anything. I would love to just see different Deadite stories.
I think they've established, especially with this one, that you don't have to be in the woods. You don't have to have Ash. Like, this just, for me, solidified, along with the remake, you don't have to have him. Now, granted, he was a lot of fun in the original series, and, mad respect for Bruce Campbell, but the series can survive without him. And I think that both films have proved that.
You know what I would like to see, and maybe this is a gimmick with me because I think it's cool for some reason, an Evil Dead on, like, a cruise ship.
Ooh, shit. That would be good. There you go. That's your sequel, man. Evil Dead.
Yeah, like...
Cruise. Nah, I don't like that. Evil Dead. I'll work on it. Continue.
But, I mean, you know, that's got the claustrophobic feel and everything else. You know, what if it worked its way through the classes? You know, you all the way up to first class, you know?
And your only way off is out in the middle of the ocean? Are you going to do that? Are you going to jump off the boat?
Exactly.
Oh, shit, yeah, that is a great idea, man.
I feel like the Deadites would be smart enough to destroy the lifeboats and everything.
Hell yeah.
God, jeez, Louis, that would be...
That's a solid idea. Because we were just talking about that. You need another isolated setting. Yeah. There you go, man. They haven't done that.
And Hell, you could even have the boat wash up on, like, some island.
Mm-hmm.
And we could get into the... Oh, Jesus. Come on. Somebody's going to hear this, and the next thing you know, there's going to be an Evil Dead on a cruise ship, and I'm going to be pissed.
Just got to come up with a better name than them, and we got to keep it to ourselves. So then when they have it, be like, well, this is our idea, and you just ruined it. But we got proof, man. We got proof. We could sue them because we were talking about it here first. Anyway.
Jeez Louise. Anyway.
But no.
Evil Dead Rise was kick-ass. Yeah. I'm just going to put it out there.
Highly recommend it. If you've not seen it, I don't know what you're waiting for. If you're not an Evil Dead fan, I don't want to knock you. It's not for everybody, I guess. But the fact that I felt like this one was, if you were a little taken aback by the last one, I think this one would kind of be a good entry point. Because, again, I understand the last one was a lot, especially with the gore, because they went that... I hate to use the term torture porn-esque route. And at the time, for good reason. You know, they were trying to establish this is Evil Dead. This was like because Evil Dead now, I mean, the original came out, it was not rated because they were going to slap an X on it. And I think it actually went through certification because if you look at it on Max, it actually has an NC-17 rating. So it's, for the time, and I guess even today, it's a graphic movie, so they were just trying to emulate that. And this one, still gory, has its moments, but they temper it. And I think if that was some of your concern, I think the story beats would keep you intrigued.
You know, all of it has to do with the time that these films are released. The Evil Dead that came out a few years ago, at that point in time, movies were, for some reason, it seemed like every horror movie was trying to be as extreme as possible.
Yeah.
So Evil Dead come out and they were like, we're going to show you why we're Evil Dead. Mm-hmm. I will say this much, that movie has probably the worst scene with something going into the orifices of a woman.
Yep.
Tree rape in the original, yes, really bad. This movie, the remake that they did a few years ago, that made me go, ugh. Mm-hmm. I don't think they did that in Evil Dead Rise. I don't think they did anything like that.
No. I mean, I don't even know if I could point to one scene that you could just say, oh, there were some rough ones, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like any of them go beyond something like that or even on the level, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But gross stuff nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, and this movie wasn't sexualized.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that it attacked a family, it just shows you that this thing doesn't care who it attacks.
I genuinely think that Sam Raimi, Robert Tapert, and whoever else is behind Renaissance needs to, as much as I would love to see this all culminate, I think they need to let it, give it to other filmmakers who have great ideas, like us, who have Evil Dead on a Cruise. And
let's do it.
Let's explore these ideas before you do anything big, like trying to make some big crossover movie. You know, play with it a little bit, you know. I think that would be a lot of fun because seeing what the last two can do, minus Ash, and you get the right people who understand the material, and you still have Sam Raimi kind of overseeing everything, making sure that everything's, you know, matching his universe that he's kind of created here. The possibilities are endless as long as you continue to find fresh new ways and new stories to really play on this. So, Evil Dead on a Cruise, that's what we're filming next. Woo!
Yeah, we'll figure out the name. I'm tossing around Evil Dead Red Seas or something.
Evil Dead Cruise Control. Here you go.
I like it.
We're just stealing that speed thing, but it works on so many levels.
We could make the cruise ship, we could have accents on the cruise ship that are like the same color as Sam Raimi's car. Here we go.
See?
We got this.
We got this. Did we see the car in this one?
It was not in this one.
Okay. I was wondering because I wasn't looking for it.
So I actually looked into that. In order to pay tribute to the car, the chainsaw that she uses is the same color as his car.
Ah, okay. Cool.
So, I do remember seeing that because I thought maybe that was going to be the car that the kids took to go get pizza.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
But for some reason it wasn't. I don't know if maybe there just was some issue. I mean, it's the same car. Sam Raimi still has it. I don't know how. I'm sure he's taken good care of it, but maybe he doesn't let it get driven as much anymore. I don't know.
I'm sure he's had it restored several times.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
I don't have anything else on Evil Dead Rise if you don't.
I don't. So let us pander over to the Twitter. to our ramblers out there and let us know how you feel about Evil Dead Rise. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you kind of like, meh? You can let us know on Twitter at horrorramblings. If you want to say a hell of a lot more, send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. We'll read it out here and tell everybody how much you loved, hated, or whatever, however you felt about it. I think everyone should like it, but, different tastes for different people. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, join our Facebook group or join us in our Ramblers room on Discord. You can even find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. And if you're feeling generous and you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/pencil-and-paper-productions. Help the show grow by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting app and tell your friends to find us on theirs as well and give us that beautiful 5-star review. And if you happen to be using Spotify, take a look at our weekly questions and polls. Let us know what you think. Finally, if you want a central hub, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. The links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember,
We'll tear your soul apart. This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.